Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Santita Jackson Show, AM 950 Radio, the voice of progressive Minnesota. It's a joy to be with you. I am Santita Jackson, and we are got to rock and roll talking about this election. Everybody's still talking about it. As they say, the forensics, um, everybody's trying to really figure out what happened here. And so now that was last week, but this week it's intensified. Now the blame game is going on. We don't want to fix the blame. We want to fix the problem. We want to see who's responsible for what, and we want to see where we go from here. Because the fact is, about 102 weeks from now, we could have a new Congress. 2 years. That's it. So what's the plan? Are we going to register children? And we don't need to wait on the Democratic Party to do that. We don't need to wait on them. We need to have our own agenda and register people just because they need to be registered to vote, and we need to get going. Stop waiting on people to save you. They're not going to save you. They're not. So let's keep this thing moving. I am on the Santita Jackson Show YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe there. Hey, Kenneth. Hey, Tracy. And please go to the Santita Jackson and Friends page on Facebook. Hey, everybody. Like and share the show. Like and share the show. I am on the Santita Jack at Santita J on X. So please get on over there, everybody, and be my friend. Be my friend. And I'm streaming on, I think this guy I know him, Reverend Jesse Jackson. I'm streaming on his page too. So everybody, please like and share the show. Like and share the show. We have got the usual suspects with us, with someone who has returned. We're so happy. T.O. Hardiman, of course, a host of his own show on WVON, the iconic Black Talk radio station here in Chicago. Brilliant community organizer, the Violence Interrupters. But on WVON, every Sunday, 6 to 7 a.m. Central Standard Time, you've got to check out the show. It's a great, great show. Of course, Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, head of the Black Caucus, Legislative Black Caucus there. We are so proud of the work that he is doing. Of course, you remember him when he ran away denying the governor quorum, trying to save democracy. Yes, you were. Yes, you were. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, who is a community psychologist. I'd never heard of that before, but really taking the pulse of the community. And that's something that we really, really need. And she has a tremendous group, Make Noise for Change. But guess what, everybody? We're so happy to have this gentleman back. And everybody is excited to welcome back Dwight McKee. Come on, give it up, everybody.
Yo.
Praise the Lord, sending you so much love. We're so glad to have you. We've had some of our crew they've been having a few struggles. Want you to send some love to Wisconsin State Representative Lakeisha Myers. As we are speaking, she had a kidney transplant today, and we are praying for her speedy recovery. She's been waiting for this kidney for a long time, and it came up. She got into the hospital, and thank God, so far, so good. But Dwight McKee, you've had your own health struggles, but we are so glad that you are here with us. Everybody has missed you. Don't say anything wrong. No. Oh my gosh. They kind of as you all probably know, they have a little bit of a thing going. But it's a lot of fun, and we're so glad. You can smile, Tio. It's not against the law. It's all right,
I know, cool.
I know.
I'm still a little tired from earlier today, Santita, waking up to host my show at 5 in the morning to be there at 6, and had to come back get a little bit of rest. Okay, so I started smiling a little bit. I didn't notice I was looking so serious.
Yeah, I like that, my brother. That's right. Yeah. So you know what? We're kind of gonna mix things up here, because we need to do. We have been looking at this election. We've been examining it for the past week and some change, because so many people thought that Kamala Harris was going to win. And what we've done on this show, and some people said that we were not supportive enough of the vice president, we tried to really send up the smoke signals, the warning signs, the warning signs like, hey, wait a minute, we see some challenges that you're having here. And they came to fruition. 900,000 fewer voters voted in the state of New York, for example. For example, Michigan, the Arab vote, Arab American vote, that's very real. And now you have, oh boy, you have some of the titans of the party who are taking hits because people are saying, you could have done more, you should have done something else. We should have known about President Biden's condition, and a whole lot has been said. And so we want to talk about that. But what we want to do is, my brother, Congressman Jonathan Jackson, says we don't need to fix the blame, we need to fix the problem. We're going to do that too. We need to assign responsibility. No question about that. But we also need to know a way forward because there is a path forward. There are some Democrats who did win, but they ran on a message that was a message that was not being run nationally. They spoke to and spoke for workers and poor people. Those are the people who won. But who knows? America's becoming more and more independent. You're seeing that people are party fluid, if you will. Many people voted for Trump who had never voted Republican before. People are searching, they're looking for answers. They're looking for people who are going to go into the halls of power and fight for them. So let's talk about it, everybody. Let's talk about it. How can we take back the House in 2026? It's possible. You're just a few seats away from doing that. And how do we make the Democratic Party do right by us? Really, that's the thing, because we're hearing rumblings that we might see the return of Rahm Emanuel. And so, you know what? We haven't had Dwight McKee here in a long time. Representative Reynolds and Theo Hardeman and Dr. LaShawn Latrice. So, Dwight McKee, why don't you kind of get things started for us and help frame this discussion?
Well, I think what we saw the other day was the reality of what America is and where America is going to go. Is that America, at its core, is in a group of major white people who have spent their lives becoming Americanized, who see America as a peculiar institution that's goal is to both dominate and convert the world to its own orientation, and is willing to maintain that level of power by any means necessary. And so if you have a choice between a very competent, uh, professional black woman and a deranged rich white man, the majority of people don't go with the deranged white man if they think that's going to help them maintain power. What the Democrats have not understood is that their future lies in the young and in the progressive, in those who are not tied so much into the political process or political parties as they are to progressive politics. And we make the same mistake every 4 years as we go after conservative constituency that is never going to convert to our beliefs and our behavior, and forsake those young progressive, those young minorities, those people who are more open-minded in their thoughts. We forsake them trying to go to the more conservative and more traditional base. And so we pay the same price for it pretty much every 4 years, whether it's at the local level or it's at the presidential level or the basic political everyday kind of politics. We pay the same price, and we lose. Whether it's judicial politics, we lose every 4 years, every 2 years.
Do you see a path to victory in 2026 to seize the House?
Not if we keep this. Einstein say, as Doc said today, that if sanity is, if you want different results, you have to do something different. You can't keep doing the same thing every time. I think you're gonna get different results. So the answer is, if we keep playing it like we planned it, we'll have the same results we've been having. If we keep locking the progressives out of the party, if they keep selecting the candidate rather than setting up a process that the public can elect or the convention can elect a candidate that has proved themselves having popular appeal, then no, we're going to be the same place that we've been all these last 12 years.
Mm. Representative Ron Reynolds, what are you seeing? I mean, you run for office. Let me back up a minute. Did you see any warning signs that that the Democrats would not win, might not win? And did you imagine that the win would be so decisive on the Republican side?
Well, I'm gonna be honest with you. I did not see. I thought the Democrats were going to win because of the massive amount of money that was raised and spent, over $1 billion. All of the bad press that Donald Trump had going into the election, having prepared for Joe Biden, but then the whole Kamala Harris nomination. So basically being caught flat footed with all of their opposition research geared towards Joe Biden, Sleepy Joe, and all this other stuff. I really thought that the Democratic Party would win, although I did see signs that there was not the enthusiasm that I thought I would see. And I think there was an overemphasis on the disenchanted Republican voters, the Liz Cheney, the Nikki Haley voters, those who were very much disgusted and embarrassed by Donald Trump, the moderate Republicans. I thought that, and the women after the Dobbs decision, I bought into the polling that white women were going to be there for Kamala, like they weren't for Hillary. So I did see signs that in the hood, in the black community, that they weren't touching them. And I reached out to some of them from the Soros campaign that were doing some funding and operations to let some of them know that you aren't touching the voters where you need to be touching them at. And this was regarding Colin Allred as well, because they were trying to help secure the United States Senate where they thought they needed that seat. I told them that this campaign that you're running isn't touching those underserved communities. And I think that was a microcosm of what was happening in Houston, all across the country. And Tio and I kind of talked about that before, where they really weren't using trusted messengers. They were having these white elite consultants trying to tell us through TV ads what we should be focused on, as opposed to traditional grassroots, or having a mixture of boots on the ground as well as the commercials. They didn't do that. They went all commercial, assuming that they had us in the bag. And I think that was a fatal flaw. They took us for granted. They raised over $1 billion, but yet when you look at it, very few pennies on the dollar were spent with black media, print, digital, and radio. Very few of those dollars, those record spending dollars, were spent in communities of color. And they lost, they got a lot of undervotes. But black women overwhelmingly voted for Kamala. Black men overwhelmingly voted for Kamala. It was just a drop off in the percentages. And you did have not as high a percentage of black men as Biden enjoyed, as Obama and even Hillary. And that's something that I think Dwight mentioned earlier on the radio show, that is this last minute desperate attempt with this black man plan. Well, it was almost too little too late. That it was almost like you're an afterthought, as opposed to, we want you a part of the team. We didn't really reach out to you till we thought we were in trouble. And then we rolled out Obama to basically chastise black men. And I think that was the wrong approach. So yes, I think we can win, Santita, but
to Dwight's point, I agree. It can't be doing the same thing. It's going to have to be a real postmortem where you accept the failures and own up to it, and are willing to make the changes and the necessary investments, and cut out some of those elitists that live in the silk ivory towers, and get back to the boots on the ground, get back to the kitchen table, grassroots, working families, get back to your core base, and then expand it. But if you don't have a solid foundation, then you can't win. She didn't have a solid foundation to begin with. So it was built on false promises of these disavowed Republicans voting for her. And she ran away from the progressives, as Dwight said. She ran away from many of the people that she could have reached out to once Biden was not the nominee, and Palestinians and Muslims and others, and pivoted and went in a different direction. So to me, it can be done, but they're going to have to change course and stop relying on the elite to pillage the resources and then give the crumbs to the rest of us.
Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, that resonated with you, T.O. Hardeman. Why?
Yeah, for sure, because we have to, the Democratic Party, they have to reinvent themselves right now, because even when you mentioned the fact that Rahm Emanuel might be considered, that's like a blast from the past. You're going back to pick up something that was toxic, bringing it to the table. The Democrats need somebody similar to, like, so Trump trumped America, he trumped the world. They need we got to think out of the box right now. Everything that you put in your playbook during this election season, it did not work, right? So now we got to think on a high level. I appreciate being on your show, Santita, because we actually had conversations about everything in advance. You know, we knew in Michigan the air vote was going to be kind of shallow. A lot of people decided not to come out and vote at all because they're disappointed. They felt they were disenfranchised. There is a difference between middle class and working class. People just don't understand that. So when you cater to the middle class, because most of us, okay, for example, I live in Chicago. You got the South Side, West Side. You got parts of the South Side like the Beverly area. You got Peel Hill area. That seems more like, I would say, middle class or upper class. That's what the perception, right? Then you got South Shore, you got Avalon Parks, you know, like Auburn, Gresham, Inglewood. That's more like working class type of communities there. So we have to make sure we cater to get the right message to the people that need to hear that message where it would resonate. Mrs. Harris, also, I want to say this, because, you know, while I'm on your show, I did my best not to never criticize her and knock her or anything, but there were some weaknesses in the message, very, very much so. For one, that message, once again, why would you make it a priority to work on, you know, sex changes for inmates that are in prison? Why would that be a Democratic priority from a presidential candidate? That's somewhere. I'm not against whatever people want to do, but why make that a priority? And you running for president, you're in a dead heat race right here. And then another thing that when we talk about religion now, I want to make this clear. The Republicans have this notion that they're going to return everybody back to putting the Bibles in the schools, Christian families, and all that kind of good stuff. Whether they do it or not, that's out there, and it's resonating with a lot of people, the traditional family type of concept. For some reason, the Democrats appear to be on the outside. That doesn't mean they're on the outside, but they appear to be on the outside of the traditional family setting, Santita, right? So all these matters have to be taken into account if they really, so, and then also, this might sound kind of, well, you know, I'm straightforward. When she hired Megan Thee Stallion to dance for her, for example, right? Megan's a beautiful African-American lady. When I watched her dancing, I forgot all about the presidential race. So I'm watching her doing her thing. I'm being honest, well, I forgot all about Miss Harris running for president. Real talk, okay? That's for me. So we got to take the theatrics out of the politics to a degree. Take the theatrics out of there and, you know, work with the real people out here. There needs to be like a full rush, you know, like you know, to go out there and talk to people from all walks of life, and do not build your shield on the battlefield. That's what Democrats must do right now. It's mandatory. You have to think in advance. Now, to Mrs. Harris' credit, she was just thrown out there. I have to say that. She was thrown out there. Mm-hmm. She was prepared. She did the best she could do, but she didn't have a whole lot of time to pull it all together. And she probably is listening to some of everybody, like the Representative Reynolds talking about how they didn't spend no money in the Black community. They took the Black people for granted to a degree, because 80% of African-American men voted for her. Let's just say that. But that other 20%, they probably went with Trump. The numbers dictate that to a degree. And just think about what would make it where people just don't want to show up and vote. Donald Trump in Illinois secured close to 2.4 million votes in a blue state. 2.4 million votes, Santita. So it's a lot to be considered here. And if the Democrats really want to take back over the House, it's all about reinventing yourself and bringing some progressive people in that are real progressives. And then some people, it's just hard to really say because you have a lot of billionaires that's running, and some billionaires that say they're progressive, but there's nothing wrong with billionaires. I want to say that, but it's all about messaging because Trump's a billionaire, multi-billionaire, and he had no regard for anybody. He said what he wanted to say. I'm not saying the Democrats should stoop to that level. And we have to say this, and then I just let it go. Trump is in that office, and I have nothing against him because of white privilege. Because never again in the history of the United States, you would have a person run with so many issues in his background, and he secures the print, and he won in a major way. I call it white privilege because I don't think an African-American person, male or female, would be able to run with anything in their background close to what Trump had in his background. I just don't see it happening. And his administration right now, correct me if I'm wrong, I haven't seen him appoint any African-American people as of yet. He may have made some appointments, but there's he appointed a whole lot of people, but I haven't seen one African-American appointment to date.
Santita, can I just respond real quick?
Absolutely.
So I agree with Tio on almost everything, but I think that one of the things that Tio that they were very clever with Trump and the Republicans was branding Kamala and the Democrats. They did it to Colin Albert, they did it to others as it was a priority for the sex change with people in prison or transgender sports. That wasn't one of her top priorities, but the Republicans did a good job of putting that as a narrative and framing it so that people believed it. And the Democrats didn't do anything, as Bill Clinton said, to dispute it. So Kamala, that wasn't one of her top priorities, but basically the message, the way that it was portrayed,
yes.
It looked like it was a top priority. She actually had said that, to my understanding, when she was doing the primary during the last presidential election, because she was trying to outflank Bernie or whatever. I don't know what it was, but the point I'm making is the Republicans did a good job of building that narrative that many people bought into, that was something that was a priority or a top priority of hers, and because it was poll tested by the right, and they ran it down Democrats' throat, even locally, down ballot. But I know that wasn't something that she was championing. She had many other issues that were more prevalent, but that was the issue that stuck because Republicans reiterated it. They spent money and put that as a top issue because that was a vulnerability that she had. With respect to family values, many Blacks, when it comes to family values, are more conservative than other folks, right? We believe in our faith and family. And so many Black families are for Bibles in school. Many Black families are for, prayer in school. So, and so I think you're right. When conservatives talk about family values, they get the attention of many Black folks, especially older Black people. And so that's something that Democrats have to be mindful of, is making sure that they don't lose some of those Blacks that you do have because they think you're running away from family values. So that's something I think you're right about.
No, I appreciate that. And quickly, Santita, another thing that Democrats fell asleep at the wheel here in the area of educating the people that the people were asylum seekers coming from Venezuela versus illegal immigrants. The same way you talk about all the time when the Ukrainians were, they came to Chicago, about 38,000 of them. They were asylum seekers. Nobody talks about it, Santita. But the reality is that the Democrats should have educated the people on a higher level in regards to what asylum seekers is all about. What was going on in Venezuela, they caused the people to want to rush to come over to the United States because, once again, the Republicans painted a narrative that the illegal immigration situation was out of control.
And also, if I can add, T.O., they also didn't address the sacred issues. That is, the real body that they lost in the turnaround states and the electoral states, the Wisconsin and Minnesota, was the Arab community and their position on the war. They just dismissed them, and they were the margin of victory in those states that she was going to either win and lose based on her position in the war. And so for them to be so resolute about supporting Israel and be so cavalier to watch the death of thousands and thousands of Arabics send a signal that, to the Arab community that nobody cares about them. So why would they care about somebody who don't care about them? And you see
Yeah,
where
you're
it's going to
breaking up a
be
lot.
aggravated. And you see what's going to be aggravated by, when you appoint somebody like Ron Emanuel, again, as the head of the party, who's a staunch Zionist, as his daddy was, as his family is, what kind of signal does that send to the community, to the Arab community? And so you set yourself up to lose, not just for this time, but for next time.
Yeah, your phone is breaking up a lot there.
Oh, you all didn't hear what I said? Can you hear me?
Community.
no, not too good. I cannot hear you.
Okay, can you
Device.
hear me
Sandy,
now?
tell them what I said. Can you?
Well, you know what? Well, I want you to state it because I think that Representative Reynolds and Dr. Latrice, people are not talking enough about the Arab factor, Dwight. And they keep saying, but that they were a blip on the graph. They didn't cost us the election. I'm like, yes, they did. And immigration cost you a lot of points too. I said, you got to get out of the Washington bubble. You got to get out of these media bubbles. DC, New York. No, you need to come to Chicago. Go to the border in Texas. Go where people are. There are a lot of folks who are very upset about this, and they didn't touch any of that, Dwight. So why don't you speak to the importance of the Arab vote and how like even with not having the Palestinian American speak on the stage, someone who's been a top fundraiser.
How dumb can you be? And those were the ones that was more involved with the progressives, with the Cornells and with the Steins, because they spoke to those issues. So I was saying that to have ignored that community, which is the margin of difference in those states where they needed to win the electoral vote, like the Minnesotas, like the Wisconsins, to just dismiss the issue of the Gaza Strip with hundreds of thousands of people dying, and to cash all of your lot with Israel, which says to the Arab community that you don't really matter to us. We just take you for granted. You either with us or not with us. But to assume that that was not a major issue to people whose cousins and aunties and grandmothers were getting slaughtered, it's just a rash dismissal of the character and quality of a people who are trying to become, who many of them were born in America, but still have, like these other ethnic groups, have their own interest in families in Gaza. You can't be a broker and make a choice that you only gonna go with one side as opposed to brokering the interests of both sides without losing that side. And they did. And it cost them part of the election.
Well, and for all that people are saying about the fears that they have for Trump at this point, we're going to come to you, Dr. Latrice, but I'd like for you all to speak to this. Today, as we are recording the show, President Biden has given permission for Ukraine to fire long-range missiles into Russia. I'm like, what are you doing? Are you trying to start World War III before you get out? And so that to the point of, I think those people who want justice in the Middle East, it's like when you fearmonger as you are running for office, people saying it can't get any worse. You know, keep. Well, I mean, now you're gonna shoot you. Now you're gonna fire into Russia. Are you serious? Oh my gosh.
Mm.
I mean, it just, yeah, that's what it's, it is, it's a lot. Dr. Latrice, what are you seeing? Because everybody on this panel, and everybody's taken their heat. And Tio's been very, very forthright about his evolution in terms of his vote. But I told you, I didn't do that, but I stand 10 toes down with you because I didn't like seeing black men blamed
Right.
and quite frankly and really talked down to. I was like, what is this? I mean, you've got Dwight. You remember when Robert Strauss in the 70s was the chair? He was the chair of the Republican and the Democratic parties. Don't you remember that, Dwight?
Absolutely.
I'm like, what are you talking about? And you say that oh wow, this is a lot. Dr. LaShawn Latrice, we've
Yeah.
been talking about these flashing lights, and we kept trying to flash the lights, Representative Reynolds, Tio Hardeman.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we
And you
did.
kept trying to do that, Dr. Latrice. What did you see?
I saw her losing the race, just how we said over this long time that we've been talking about this. There were so many different things that weren't done. I don't know if it was intentionally overlooked or what, but I just know that you could see the writing on the wall. And as we got closer to the election, those things started to manifest more and more. And I didn't like the narrative that they were trying to say, if the black men don't come out, she's going to lose. And this is all a sexist thing. I didn't agree with that. I didn't agree with the race card, how they spent a lot of time talking about whether she was black or Asian. I think that was all wasteful. And I also did not like every time she was given an opportunity to speak, it was always talking about Trump, Trump, Trump. We wanted to hear what she had to say. We wanted to hear her views, her perspectives, and get to know who she was. And as a presidential candidate, to always speak of what your opponent is doing, it's like it's taking the light off of the things that you should be saying and those important things. And I think a lot of people were extremely turned off by propping those celebrities up in front of us, thinking that all you need to do is dangle a little entertainment in front of us. We're so ignorant. So we just see the entertainment. But many of us don't even resonate with those artists. And the people that do resonate with those artists don't associate them with giving them any sort of influence on voting. So I had a lot of conversations with people where they were very, very upset that they thought that was all wasteful. They thought not spending money in the black community was wasteful. Overlooking those disenfranchised groups of people and just not talking about it was not going to help the campaign at all. But I also think that this is a sign that people are going to pay attention, that there is really no Democrat and Republican party per se. There is a duopoly that exists, and people are going to go with the power structures more than they are with the parties, because we already know, at least the people I talk to who have a problem with the Democratic Party, they feel like all of that is smoke and mirrors. So if Rahm Emanuel does come back, I would love to see what that reaction will look like, because it's going to probably be a implosion happening more than an explosion.
Hmm. Do you see? What do you see in 2026? Do you think that they can recapture, the Democrats can recapture the House?
No, I don't see that happening if they don't acknowledge that there are some major changes that need to take place. I don't think that's enough time for it to be turned around.
So you're saying that the pain and the disappointment and the anger is that deep in the black?
Yes.
Okay. Is that
Think
what
about
everybody else is?
it.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's been going on for years. So, think about it, for decades.
Well, I mean, Dwight, Tio. I mean, you. Let me go. Let me pivot to you, and then everybody else jump in. You have your radio show. You are listening to people. This is one of the most popular black stations in the country. So you tell me, what are you seeing?
No, I kind of agree with Dr. LaShawn Latrice, to be honest with everybody, because it's going to be hard because Trump has 4 years, and Trump's going to put a lot of energy and a lot of financing behind the Republicans right now. It's going to be really an uphill battle for Democrats. You know, I would like to remain optimistic about it, but the truth of the matter is, you know, what's going on right now, I just don't see it happening. It's not going to happen right now. It's too much at stake right now, and Trump is the kind of guy. Once he, you know, like he smells blood right now, so he's gonna he's like a big, you know, lion. You know, he's smelling blood. Democrats are weak right now. He's not gonna let up on the gas pedal at all. So I don't see the Democrats actually gaining any momentum. Not in the next 2 years, maybe in the next 4 years, possibly, because we know Trump. He was the president once before, and Trump may make some bad moves while he's the president this time. We don't know. You know, the verdict is still out. But if he makes some big mistakes here, it's going to cost him then possibly. So that's the only way I see the Democrats being able to win some seats in the House, because it all comes down to who's going to finance those elections on a national level. Because remember, Trump won states like Pennsylvania, right? He won Pennsylvania. And then the running mate, Waltz, he's from Minnesota. Didn't Trump take the electoral votes out of Minnesota as well? Am I correct?
Yes.
So that should have been unheard of, because that goes to show you that the weaknesses are deep as, you know, it's like deep as the Mississippi River. So in order for them, they have to unearth a lot of stuff. The Democrats have to go in a strategy session with a lot of leaders and really, really come up with a whole new like Trump got to Project 2025. The Democrats have to come up with Project 2026, some kind of way where they can kind of galvanize the support of everybody throughout the nation. Once again, look at the numbers, look at the areas where they were weak, where they're the weakest at, and then really cater a message to that population. Like white women, they were weak. They fell short with white women, fell short with white men. So Democrats have to come up with a way to reinvent themselves all over again. That's my input there.
Well,
Yeah.
hello.
Let me say.
Can I say this real quick?
Go ahead, Dwight.
By 2026, Democrats going to be living in the projects. It ain't going to be no Project 26. They're going to be living in the projects in 26.
Yeah.
Because Trump is going to dismantle that party. He's putting people in place now that's going to make sure that every constituency and every resource that the Democrats have to work with is going to be off the table. He is going to put, when Elon Musk is going to be in charge of the budget. And he's going to take $2 trillion away from the budget. I can guarantee you that 85 to 90% of that is going to be those programs that the Democrats put in to lock in their constituencies.
Wow.
He's going to put together the judicial structure that will sign off on all of the legislation that the Republicans have passed to disenfranchise those who don't agree with them. He is putting together a system of, with the FBI and the CIA and the National Guard, where he's going to be in charge in every sense of military, and going to send the judicial system after all of the players in the Democratic Party that went after him. He's going to dismantle the Democratic Party. And then if he also mess around and do one or two major things for people of color, he will lock them in like Lincoln had the Republicans, blacks locked into the Republican Party, because we've been so needy and so disregarded and so dismissed after all of we've invested in the Democratic Party, that all he's going to do is wave 2 or 3 major things at us. And many of us are going to flip because we're just that needy. And he's going to wave Obama's flag in our face and say, now here's what he thought of you all. And here's what I think of you all. You know, at least I'm going to give you crumbs from the table. He didn't even want to give you crumbs from the table. So I see this being almost the end of the Democratic Party.
Ron?
Well, Yeah, I wanted to say this real quick, and first of all, Santita, I think I want to commend you because I just had, you know, I took time to think back to numerous shows leading up to the election where you were very clairvoyant, talking about a lot of the issues. And I know some of your guests were a little like, oh, "You're not supposed to be saying that. You're not supposed to be saying that quiet part out loud." So you really were sounding the alarm bell when others didn't want it to be discussed because, hey, you know, we got this, we're fine, but don't discuss this, don't discuss this issue. Everything's fine. So I want to commend you for that. Uh, to Dwight's point, I think that, you know, Trump. Well, first of all, the party in charge, meaning that the person who has the presidency, going into a midterm election traditionally loses seats. And so I think that that's tradition. I mean, it doesn't happen all the time, but I'll never forget. You think back in Obama's first term in 08 and 10, what happened? He took the shellacking where he lost a whole bunch of seats in Democrat majorities, right? And so that's the tradition that usually happens. The last time there wasn't a red wave during President Biden's midterm, and that's where Democrats kind of got the big head because the red wave didn't happen. But so I say this to say that I do think there's going to be overreach by Trump. We've already seen it with his nominees for his cabinet, assuming that they get confirmed. You have an attorney general that will be very like gangster style as the attorney general. There will be a reckoning. You have think about these other nominees that he's had for you know, Secretary of HUD, for Homeland Security, for Director of Intelligence. I mean, we have some of the most kind of the shock and awe kind of nominees that we've ever seen before, right? It's almost movie like. So I do think there will be overreach. I do believe that there will be some pain felt by many of those disenfranchised communities that stayed home, or even many of those Hispanic men that voted for Trump. I think there will be a lot of the poor that get poorer. And I do think the wealthy, in terms of stocks, the Elon Musk of the world, they will be exponentially more richer. So the richer and the rich, the elites, they will be very happy. But I do believe that there's going to be a lot of pain. I don't believe there's going to be much done for the poor, period, right? I believe that there's going to be a lot of programs that are going to be gutted, DEI, across this country. I believe that minority women in business programs that have benefited even me in my personal capacity as a business owner, I think those are going to be gutted. So I think that there's going to be a lot of harm done. And I think that therefore, when the midterms come, if the Democrats do their part, and assuming they do, I'm not saying if they don't, then we'll lose anyway. But assuming the Democrats learn from these mistakes and retool, I do think there's a good chance that the Democrats could come back and take the House, because it's a very close margin. We talk about 6 to 10 seats, 6 to 8 seats. I mean, it's not a lot of seats difference between the majority and the minority party in the House. So I do, my opinion is that Democrats have a very good chance to come back.
Okay.
I mean, Tio?
No, I say that's fair. No, I understand both sides of the coin here, but my thing is I just don't see it right now. Maybe in 4 years from now, but not within the next 2 years. Too much has taken place so far, and the Democrats were beaten down. They didn't just lose the perceptions. Once again, they were beaten down all the way throughout the entire nation. That's what's going to make it so hard. What would give people the energy or the motivation to go Democrat when all these millions of people didn't even show up at the polls? How you gonna get them voters to come back and vote? You see, so that's what's maybe it's time now for a real third party shift, a party that can really identify with all the working class people in a more sincere way. That's my thoughts right there. Third party. See, with the Democratic Republican system, there's no wiggle room for third parties, even a Green Party, Independent Party. The Independent Party should be further advanced by now. I don't know why they cannot just cross over that threshold to get the percentage of votes they need.
The Democrats just shut them down.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
See,
no,
there's a need for a third party right now.
Yeah, because this a second one will do.
Yes.
Because
Well,
you
it's going
can,
to show you. It's showing you by the numbers and the turnouts that a third party is needed in the United States. Period. There's
Well,
no ifs, ands, and buts. I don't think they're going to just shut down the Democrat Party altogether. I must say that, but I just think it's going to be a hard road back to get on top,
well,
controlling the House.
I just talked to Dr. West, who
Yeah.
just hung up the telephone,
Okay.
and he is. They're creating more and more momentum around third parties every day. People are more
Okay.
open to the notion of a third party every day, and if you give them another 6 months to a year, I think third party is not going to be an abstract idea. I'm with you, T.O. I
Right on.
think people are going to look at other options than the Democratic Party, who is not perceived as a loser party. I hate to
Right.
say that to you, Chairman, because I know
No,
you
we
take it
look.
personally.
No, Dwight. You know what I appreciate about this show is real talk. It ain't scripted. It ain't no,
Right.
handkerchief head Negroes with talking points, agreeing and singing "Kumbaya." I respect what you're saying, but I think that it helps us sharpen our irons to address those issues. I think there are massive problems with the Democrat Party. I think that again, I sound like a broken record, but I've said it on the show long before the election that they were failing to put the resources in the Black community. I know for a fact that many in the past, I've seen more resources come in the Black community. This time, I guess they were like, "Oh, well, we got a Black woman. They're gonna be fine. We don't need to worry about them." And I kept singing the alarm bell. Hey, y'all, I don't know what's going on, but the resources aren't there. We aren't doing this, and they'll come around. They'll come around, and then they, like you said, they wanted to They wanted to bring Megan Thee Stallion out. They
Right.
wanted to bring Beyonce out. Oh, Taylor Swift is going to save that. No, but that to me that was the problem right there. They thought that they could put out a few celebrities, and all of a sudden our community is going to gravitate and say, okay, where's the poll at? Instead of going into those communities and meeting those people where they were, going into the barbershops, going into the beauty salons, going into the housing projects, going into those areas where, quite frankly, Obama did a good job of going and reaching those people, younger people, millennials, Gen X. Kamala's campaign, that was one of the deficiencies, but I think there was an over calculus of these, Republicans that were swing voters that were going to vote one-time Democrat. That didn't.
Ridiculous, ridiculous. And I said a few times I called people to find out what their take on was on the things that would stop them from voting and things like that. People were not only upset that they felt like they were overlooked, but a lot of the people who were rooting for Kamala and feeling like they were making good moves, they said things back to me like, "Oh, she's not focused on those voters who you're talking about. They're poor people. They don't come out and vote." And I'm like, "What?" That's the problem right now. When we make statements like that, like we kept bringing the Divine Nine into the play, when you overlook the people who you think don't matter, those are the people who are hurt and hit the hardest. So of course they're going to make a huge impact. And even with Trump now being the president-elect, I still think he's going to get into that office and he's going to make some wild moves because his surname is Trump, in the business of pissing people off. And whatever he could do to piss people off, he's going to do it. He does not care.
And Santita, to your point you made earlier with this circle of firing squad,
Mhm.
they're dismissing, former Speaker Pelosi is dismissing Bernie Sanders. They're trying to dismiss AOC. So anybody that from a progressive lens that is given criticism, whether it's members of the squad, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Umar, those women did well, right? They did very well. They voted above Kamala down ballot, right? And so, but they're being dismissive of the progressive. They're being dismissive of people who are critical to the establishment talking points. And I think that the Democrats will lose if they continue to dismiss those who they disagree with because they aren't singing the company line. Hakeem Jeffries is in a precarious position because he was asked if former Speaker Pelosi had overstepped and this and that, and he had to dance around it. And so I think he's in a precarious position, but he's going to have to step out of her shadow and lead the Democratic Party if he wants to lead. And that is no criticism of him. I'm just saying at some point you're going to and that's what Kamala never did with Biden. She never stepped out of Biden's shadow. That is a mistake. If our leadership, whoever's going to emerge is our leaders. We don't know who the Democratic Party chair is going to be. Ben Wickler out of Wisconsin is another name that is emerging besides Rahm Emanuel. But whoever the leader is going to be, or leaders, plural, not singular, because it's not going to be one, they're going to have to be able to speak truth to power. They're going to have to be able to push back against those millionaires and billionaires that are the big donors that try to dominate whatever the messaging is.
Well, Rev, I'm going to introduce you to Cornell because we're going to put you on that ticket.
well, Dwight, you can tell Cornell he had a voter who wrote him in because that was my candidate.
Oh, I am, as did I.
Tell him that.
So that's what we're going to do with you, Chairman. There's room at the cross for you, as my pastor used to say.
Room at the cross.
I knew it was coming. That's how these two roll. I knew it was coming. But you know what? I have about a minute left here, but I want to thank you all for being here. But you know what? Just go around and in about just 30 seconds or so. You know, why is it important for us to have this kind of conversation right now, T.O. Hardiman?
Well, it's very important because we're talking about policies. We're educating the public at large. A lot of times people do not get a chance to hear these type of voices speaking from different areas, different type of perspectives and points of view. Like what Rev Reynolds said about your show, we don't just have the regular type of yes men and yes women type of people speaking here. That's why it's very important, because we have knowledge. We have a knowledge base that far exceeds, the entire world. We're not just talking on a local level. That's why.
Well, Jonathan Polk said Black people are not progressive. The party focused more on LGBTQ issues and abortion than it did on issues that affect Black Americans, like finances and education. Because there's some conversations, I guess in terms of doctrine, church doctrine, Black people would be set up to be homophobic. I've always said that's not who Black folks are. Black folks live and let live. Particularly if it's your son or your daughter or your loved one. No. We don't do all that. We don't roll like that. Well, and at the end of the day, your gay husband, wife, brother, sister, cousin, they all cannot afford groceries. The rent is too high. Those are the things that we wanted to hear about, y'all. I mean, honestly. And that makes me someone who is supportive. But I'm not going to be played with. Because don't take me for granted. I don't do that well. Because with you talking about bringing Rahm Emanuel back, that's a non-starter for me. We're Chicagoans, many of us here. We saw the tape of this boy getting shot 16 times by the police, and they hid the tape so that the mayor could get reelected. He shut Black schools down. Our children are not being educated right now today. Oh, no. And he told the head of the teachers union, Rahm Emanuel did, that you know what? As she was begging him to keep these schools open, he said 25% of them are not going to make it anywhere. He would not say that about white children. He said it about our children. And we can't forget that.
That's right.
And then what you want to do is come and wag your finger in my face and make me vote for you? Oh, no, honey. That's not going to work. And all of that has to be discussed. All of it. So that if y'all want to win a game, I remember coming out of the 84 campaign, I'm going to let you give the last 30 seconds to you, Dr. Latrice. The Democrats never knew what to do with Reverend Jackson. Even after he registered people, The people he voted, he registered more voters than anyone in the history of the republic. And Governor Mario Cuomo from New York, said to, I think it was Governor Dukakis, who that year was or no, maybe it was either Governor Dukakis or Vice President Mondale. Both of them became the nominees. I don't know what to do about Jesse. He wants so much. I just said, I don't know how to handle him. He said, well, if you are ambitious to remain where you are, you won't figure it out. But if you're ambitious to be president, you're going to figure out how to deal with this man. How about that? You can't just dismiss people and then demand that they vote for you. Oh, no, it's not going to work. Dr. Latrice, you close this out.
Yes, I think until we understand that there's value no matter where people are in the economic realm, the educational realm, people are impacted. And until we recognize that, we just celebrated and commemorated the 10-year death of Laquan McDonald. If you prop a candidate up like Rahm Emanuel and say he's going to be the head of something, they're going to see a firestorm that they have never seen before, because we are those type of people. We don't forget at all. We're continuing to unite. We're becoming more educated. We're sharing information, and we want people to be aware of everything that's going on. So right now, if we really want to move forward, we're going to have to be honest and make some clear changes in the Democratic Party.
If you want us.
If you want us.
If you want us. It's that simple. If you want us. And that is real. I was born a human being first, a child of God. Everything else comes after that. Even my gender. First, I'm a human being.
That's right.
And now I'm a grown woman. You're not going to do this to me, insult me. I have an insult level. And if we don't have an insult level, we're going to get insulted and we're never going to get what we deserve, ever. And I mean that for poor white folks too, because you're getting jammed too. I'm just getting jammed first. The 99% don't deserve what the 1% are shoveling our way. It's not fair. But you have to think enough of yourself. You have to know that you are somebody and decide that you are not going to take this anymore. That the bounty of God's earth, because you are God's child, belongs to you. God will supply your every need, not your every greed. Our children and we deserve to be educated so that we can actualize the ambitions and become the people God meant us to be. Don't just educate the children. Re-educate people who need other jobs, who need to move into another profession. We have that money, but we can't spend it on Ukraine and in other places. We can't do it. Nobody should be living in poverty in America. Nobody should be living in substandard housing. Nobody. Everybody ought to be able to get well. No one should suspect that they have cancer, maybe know that they have it, but decide not to go to the doctor because they cannot afford it. They can't get treatment. That's happening every day. To red, yellow, black, brown, and white. And it is not right. It's not fair. So we got to do something about this. Because Tuesday, November 5th didn't have to happen. But it was predictable. Because we were neglected. We were not respected. That's not going to work. Texas State Representative Ron Reynolds, y'all do it big down in Texas. We got a lot of work to do.
We got a lot of work.
A lot of work. WVON 6 to 7 a.m. every Sunday. WVON, the voice of the Negro, absolutely the voice of the nation. Check him out, please. And you have a book, don't you?
It's right here, Interrupting Gun Violence, the Public Health Approach, on Amazon. This is my book. It's been out for about 4 or 5 months now, and we're doing pretty good. I'm utilizing this book in the Cook County Jail, meeting with all the young brothers, talking about what they learned from my book, and then I'm pushing it all across the nation to the best of my ability. And so that's where I'm at right now. God has blessed me to continue to make things happen. That's what we have to do. I've learned how to make a lot out of a little. By growing up in the heart of the ghetto, I just want to say that I learned how to make the best out of what I have. All praise to God.
Well, you know what? I did not grow up there, but I learned to make the best of what I have.
That's right.
because we are from the same caste.
Yes, indeed.
And
Always.
that's something that was forgotten in this campaign. We all have different classes. It is what it is. But at the
Yeah.
end of the day, something's going to remind you of the caste that you're in. Period.
Always.
So come on, everybody. And when you really think about it, the 99% are in the same caste because we can't move.
Mhm.
So I love you all. Got to get over to the second hour because we're going to continue to have these conversations until we work this out.
Peace,
Come
Thank you, Santita.
Dr. Patrice, and everyone else.
Love
Bye.
you.
All
I
right.
Love you
love
too.
you.